Hi, Mark here from the Tangibound Podcast Network and host of the flagship show, the Tangibound Podcast. Did you know that we over at Tangibound are always looking for amazing podcasts to promote? And did you also know that we are also proud nerds and geeks of everything from movies, music, gaming, TV shows, and comic books to wrestling, MMA, soccer, and football? Whatever you can nerd or geek out about, we've got it. And if you're interested, we can help you find it. And if you're a show looking for a place to call home, we've got you covered. Side effects may include upset stomach, dizziness, tumors, shakes, and in some rare cases, death from excessive laughter. Though to be fair, it's only sometimes. Other side effects may include diarrhea, gallstones, heart palpitations, and strong desire for cookies on the dark side. Talk to your doctor and visit TangiboundNetwork.com and see if Tangibound Network is right for you.
We're not doctors, therapists, trained professionals of any kind, so if you feel you do need help, please reach out and get the help you need. We have a whole list of things on our files page over on Facebook at facebook.com/crazylifepodcast, and or just search on the internet for the suicide prevention hotline number, or go to NAMI.org or whatever resource you can find. But just please reach out for help if you need it. If you feel as though you're going to harm yourself or others, definitely reach out. And try not to be alone. Also, if you feel that way and you realize that you're writing a note or making plans of how you would do, like harm yourself or others, definitely reach out. That's a huge red flag. And lastly, please do not replace the idea of therapy with listening to this show. Again, if you need help, please reach out and get the help that you need, or contact us. We can try to help you find the help that you need.
Life sucks to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. Life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday. Wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time, so stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. Then you'll see the clouds every day. Then you'll see the clouds every day.
Welcome to the Crazy Life, everyone. My name is Jen. I am your hostess for the evening, and with me, as always, we have Brian and Henno. Hey, guys.
Hi.
Hi.
Such full of excitement tonight.
Sure.
Brian was a little slow on the response, I'd have to say.
Yep.
Well, I apologize, folks, that we were not available last week to bring you a show, but life just got the best of us.
No, Tony did.
No, that was on me. That wasn't on anybody else, because I agreed to record.
No, I say we just blame Tony.
Yeah, that's fair. I agreed to record Salty Language and totally forgot that it was Wednesday. And yeah, when you guys were like, "Hey, are we recording?" And I'm like, "Oh," because we're like halfway in, and yeah, it was, yeah, and then it just didn't work out from there.
It was funny early
show without recording is all.
Yeah, earlier in the day when you're like, "I think so," and I'm like, "Okay, he's either going out with his brother." Or he's going to be, he's podcasting with Tony. And then when I found out I was podcasting with Tony and Jen and I had been talking for like an hour already, we're like, all right, I'll talk to you later.
Well, it was funny because you texted me, Jen texted me like, hey, me and Henno are going to sign off. I had just hit stop on the recording, like right then. So it was that close.
That's
but
so
it was,
funny.
yeah, and I was like, because I thought about going, well, hey, but, and I was like, I also don't really feel like it now.
No,
because
you already done a show.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, 2 in a row. It's no fun.
Yeah.
No.
Even though they're different,
Right.
you're right. It's tough to, I don't know. be on for that long. You know?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, long story short, we apologize, folks, that we were not here for you last week. But as always, remember, we do have a huge library of backup podcasts that you can listen to at your leisure.
Many podcasts.
Mhm.
So many
Yeah.
of them.
Two-
So,
280
Feel
other
free-
episodes.
back and peruse to your heart's content.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, with that, who wants to start us off this week?
I think Brian has to.
Yeah. That's
Sounds good to me.
yeah, that's fair. I haven't really done much. I think I've been trying to kind of as weird as it'll sound, like double down on not going out. Because it's a time of year, and in fairness, this is the time of year I generally don't like going out anyway under normal circumstances, because usually stores are crazy, people are on edge because it's Christmas, and traffic's usually worse, so I just typically don't want anything to do with leaving the house this time of year generally. And I'm having the same feeling this year, but it's different because it's not based on the other, because traffic's really not that bad, and the stores really aren't worse, than they've been. So, at least around here. So, but it's still weird, like being in, being in public, and I had to go into the grocery store the other day, and, I lost my ish on a woman that took her mask off to just take a selfie in the cereal aisle. And I just was like, I just yelled at her to put her mask back on. Not full on yelled, but raised my voice. And
you're like, just put your mask on.
Yeah, it was like, what do you, we joked about it quite a bit on Salty Language, because it was like, who are you taking that picture for? Like, they can't wait till you get into your car. They just got to see your face that bad, Like, your Instagram followers can wait. They don't care about whatever cereal you're standing in front of, So, it's just stuff like that just bugs me. It's like, how you gonna walk around the store with a mask on? But then I will give her credit for one thing, which was she tried to step into an aisle where she thought there was no one to take the selfie.
To take your selfie.
Yeah. I was crouched down getting some crackers, and I don't think she saw me, because there was like a display thing kind of, probably obscuring her vision of me. And then when I popped up, it's probably a weird experience. Just some random white dude just pops up and, put your mask on.
I was just going to say, as you're hiding behind the aisle.
I'm just waiting.
So funny.
I'm like a cop, who set a speed trap, like just waiting for that person to go through there and whoop, whoop, light them up. But, and it sucks because when I do this stuff, like, I try so hard not to, and it angers me seeing people doing some of this stuff, but whatever, we've talked on here at length about it. It's like, I also understand it's gonna happen, and I can't generally control it, but it just, that one I couldn't tolerate because it was just for a selfie, like, if it was for some good reason or something, but it was like, you're just taking your mask off for a selfie. It's like, come on. Like,
and doesn't she know that mask selfies are all the thing now?
I know, right? Duh. But, anyway, it was kind of funny though too, because on the same trip, I get up and I'm in the lines were not crazy, but they were fairly long, and I got a lot of stuff and I'm waiting, and while I am this kid that's bagging the groceries for other people at the time, he's super nice, but just doesn't shut up. Like, the whole time you're there, his mouth is running, and he's just talk, and then he starts just singing "Isn't She Lovely?"
Really?
By Stevie Wonder, and he's not singing it well, but he's having a good time. So on one hand, I'm kind of like, dude, shut up. But I'm also then I'm also kind of like, you know what? I've worked retail at holidays, and you got to do something, like to get through your day. Yeah. But it was funny because, you know, it was annoying, but also it was like, I ain't mad at him because, again, I understand. You know, like you're doing what you got to do to get through your day, you know. But it was funny because I'm looking at the cashier and she just got this look on her face like, please shut up. And I'm thinking, you know, it's an annoyance to me for the 5 minutes, 10 minutes I'm standing there. And I'm like, but he's probably the guy who's assigned to like her lane for hours. And she's probably like, please just give me 5 minutes. Like, can you, because she just was not having it, you know, she was not having a good time with it. But then when he was singing Isn't She Lovely, he like put her name in at some point, and she she broke then, you know, because she kind of smiled about it and whatever. But yeah, like I said, he's a super nice dude. He, you know, he's just doing his job, and like I said, just trying to make it through a day at work. I can't fault her for that, you know. But it was just funny how, even though at first it annoyed me, it was like, okay, well, I'm definitely not just gonna, you know, yell at somebody there also. But it was funny because I was like, well, why is it I can find sympathy for him, but I couldn't find sympathy for the woman taking the selfie, you know? I just couldn't. I don't know what it was about it, but I was just like, nope. And just snap. But, you know, she put her, also to her credit, when I did that, she looked at me and she put the mask right back on. So, you know, and she left the aisle. She was probably more embarrassed and half frightened than anything.
She's more embarrassed about being caught taking a selfie.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. Yeah, you know, I was just like, come on, like not this year, you know, like. But anyway, yeah. So, but most of the week's just been me kind of dealing with that, and it's been I mentioned on Salty Language a couple of people that I actually know, have met, interacted with, whatever, you know, in the last few weeks have passed away from COVID, and they're not like directly, you know, in my circle, so it's not a situation where it's like I'm sad for the people that lost them more, you know, like it doesn't affect me a ton, but I feel bad for the, you know, those that lost loved ones. And you know, it just really sucks. And then I found out, you know, my last aunt, I should say, not one of my aunts, my last aunt, because she's the last sister my mom has, you know, had a couple of strokes the other day, and I haven't really heard how well she's doing. Like, it's not like life threatening, but I know she's in like a, I don't want to say a nursing home, but like a recovery kind of thing, where I'm sure
assisted living.
Yeah, where they're going to put her through like physical therapy and stuff to try to, you know, because you never know, you know, after a stroke, you don't know exactly what all's affected in a person. So, you know,
like
it's been
rehab hospital then.
Yeah, but it's not. It's like a nursing home that does rehab. I don't know what the term for it is, but yeah, that's basically what's going on. So yeah, it's been, you know, there's been some definite you know, dips in the week. Trying to think of, I can't really think. Nothing really big happened this week though. Otherwise, as far as, you know, nothing I can even really think of like the win for the week or anything like that, because I've just like, it just feels like a week where I existed through the week. That's what it feels like. You know, I don't even really feel like I lived through the week more than I just felt like, well, yep, I did that, and yep, I did that. But it was, you know, just what had to be done more than it was, ooh, I want to go do this, you know, or ooh, I did this, you know, kind of a situation. So yeah, I guess that's it for me.
Nice. Well, I'll go next. So Thanksgiving happened, and it was a very nice time. You know, 6 people, I think, is what we had over, and we had an 18-foot table. So we social distanced even at our table. But we did our best to keep masks on and to keep everything safe. And so we made it through Thanksgiving, and put my tree up, put my mom's tree up, went and made kiflis, which kiflis are a Hungarian pastry, not too far off from kolaczki, which, Brian, I know you're familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
So I made keeflies with my mother-in-law and my cousin and my aunt-in-law. So that was fun. So I've been very busy, which is a good thing, but also a bad thing. Good thing because it's doing wonderful family stuff and just really enjoying myself. Bad thing because I put a lot of pressure on myself to be very socially on.
Mhm.
And if I don't have enough downtime, it can be quite problematic. So still kind of trying to work out that balance.
It's a tough
I
time.
won't-
Tough time of year to find that balance. For
It
like
really is.
for you, I mean, especially, but I know other people too. But I personally knowing how this is for you, I know it's a tough one because there's a lot of on time generally through this.
Yeah. And so my last day off of everything was the Sunday before Thanksgiving. My next day off of not doing anything is the 19th. So it's almost a month straight of activities every single day.
Hmm.
So I'm not saying that I'm doing something all day long every day, but there's just not a whole lot of downtime for me. So I'm just kind of having to just keep an eye on things to make sure that I stay as balanced as I possibly can during all this time. And then this weekend I'm making candy, and then we're taking my mom up to Bronner's. So it's just, there's just a lot going on. And then, unfortunately, today I received some bad news. My stepfather-in-law, if you can follow all of the different relationships there, but basically my husband's stepdad, he did pass away a few hours ago, unfortunately. So yet another, and it's just, it's been a rough for me. I mean, it has been. And I hate that feeling of not being able to do anything, not being able to say the right things, not being able to take any action. But basically, you just have to sit in it. And it sucks. Because the last thing you want to do is sit in it. But you just can't have to. You have no choice. This is the way life is. So you sit in the emotion and process the emotion with what you can, and what you can't process at that moment, then you put aside to deal with at another point and focus on something else for a while. Unfortunately, I'm becoming quite good at the whole working through it.
Yeah.
I don't want to be good at this, but It's becoming a necessity, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So it's just been a 2020. It's just, ups and downs and curveballs and, loop-de-loos and giant hills and all this craziness that have just been going on. But the one consistent, and hopefully it's consistent. I haven't heard my manager's remarks yet, so we'll find out later in that. But I did my end of year review. I submitted that, and my manager and I had a touch base today, and it sounds like we're on the same page. So hopefully no surprises, and at least something can go somewhat according to plan and have some resemblance of normalcy. But yeah, so work seems to be going fairly decent.
Isn't that nice?
Yes.
It really is.
It is nice to have that consistent force, and my manager's pretty darn awesome. I mean, she gets the fact that when we're Zooming, or we're meeting on, not Zoom, but when we're doing online conference calls, if there's something that happens in the household that I need to address, she is completely cool with me pausing for a minute, putting her on hold, taking care of business, coming back, and then resuming where we left off. And she is completely cool with a dog head showing up on my shoulder as we're talking.
Yeah.
And she's completely cool with, just the random stuff that happens when you're working from home. She gets it. She understands it. She completely goes with the flow on it. And she's very transparent with things to work on, things that need to get done. So it's just been really nice to have that consistency and that transparency in my life, which I haven't always had.
True.
So
Yeah.
I've got myself a really good manager, and I'm very grateful for that because it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brian's been through some of my managers and knows that they are not been some good ones.
Nope. Been some real gems.
Let's just say at one point I had a review where I was not meeting expectations but still got a raise. So and that's because the manager in charge of the expectations portion didn't like me. The manager in charge of the raise portion really liked me. So the raise basically I was told that the raise canceled out the negative portion because she didn't agree with the other woman, and there was nothing she could do about the other woman because the other woman was adamant to do what she wanted to do. So she's like, I can control this, so I'm giving you a raise. I'm like, okay.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Run with it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right? I'm like, this makes no sense whatsoever, but okay. Thankfully, that was quite a few years ago, and that is definitely not the manager I'm working with right now. So I'm very thankful.
Yeah.
So I guess that's all I got. How about you, Hanno?
Well, very similar to yours. Work's been real consistent and no pressure, and just feeling like I'm kicking ass where I need to, and it's just nice. It's nice to not have that be something that's taking up space in the back of my head somewhere.
Yeah.
It really is great. And I've had like last Thursday I took the day off because the dogs were just we did our Thanksgiving. That all ended up being, really good. Everything worked out. I ended up spending more time than I wanted to, going back through more of my dad's stuff, but it was totally worth it. And I got to see some friends. Sometimes it was just we're in the car, they're on the lawn, but got to do it.
Right.
And but we still dealing with the ticks when we were down there, just like the year before. And you just can't get them all, and so Bogart ended up having an infection again, and Sharon took him to the vet, and I just cleaned everything. I washed everything, grabbed all the dog beds, washed everything. And what was wild was while I was doing all that, my boss calls me at home, and he was in a unit that he asked me to do some interior repairs. And the only reason I took the day off is because I got this job done. So he's like, hey, I'm done, and this unit, da da da. And he's like, Are you done in here? I'm like, oh yeah, got it all done. It's all, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, can, I hope, can you see where the paint doesn't quite match? He's like, no, I can't. I'm like, all right, well, I'll do the billable next week and everything. And he was calling about me getting back onto a salary, and, we're going to have to try to sell it somehow. But it should be pretty easy because we are no longer having a general manager. And so we're distributing the various authorities. And so there's got to be a way that we can basically just, nothing's going to change in real life. A little bit it will, of course, but mostly this is just on paper. But when I brought it up with, our new property manager, who's our accountant, she says, why do you want to do this? And, I gave her my the standard answer, which is like, I get paid really well. I really should be able to do that extra bit of work, and and I told her too, I said, what I get for overtime.
Yeah.
It's like, you see the books. It's like, I shouldn't be collecting overtime. And then, and then the other part of it is that most of my working career, I've been involved managing of some sort and supervising. And so my perspective is a little different. I'm actually thinking about the work. But my boss asked me the same thing. And I was just like, I started saying, and finally when it came down to is, when I get my bonus, I don't want to wonder if I earned it. Like it was that I don't want that feeling of, when's the rug going to get pulled out from me? Now, it's not going to. I've been there for almost 15 years now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still that idea of like, I want to know that I want that extra mile.
Mhm.
That when they said, will you do whatever it takes? Yes, I'll do whatever it takes. And I want that peace of mind. And that's kind of like a win for me, considering that how much time it's been like, okay, do the bare minimum.
Yeah.
And now it's like, I want to do more than.
No, just
You know,
for
the-
curiosity's sake, if you were at it like all the way up against your time for the week and there was something that needs to be done, and I don't mean like urgent, but something that still needs to be
Yeah.
done, do they, okay, your overtime, or are they like, let's just wait till next week?
I always have a little bit on there.
Okay.
Always, just because I tend to. My boss leaves about a half an hour before I do, so I tend to stay a little bit later and take care of stuff.
Oh,
I try
okay.
to balance it out, but I've always got a little bit on there, and no, there's never been an issue. It's never
'Cause-
come up.
Okay, I was just wondering if, like, because if they were like, hey, we don't want you to stay because it's prohibitively,
Yeah, it's never been that.
Okay.
But what there is like, for example, one of my coworkers is on vacation this week, and I left 2 hours early today so I could go in on Saturday for 2 hours.
Yeah.
I would like to just be able to go in for those 2 hours and then take the 2 hours off on Sunday or whatever, and that would all be,
Mm-hmm.
that wouldn't be an issue any longer.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure.
That kind of stuff. It's just
Mhm.
it's I'm one of the we've always had 3 people that are salaried, so you got 3 people that can that where if they need to come in, they come in, and now it's going to be 2
Mm.
that are familiar with the facilities, and I believe there should be 3, and so it's,
Yeah.
but it brought up interesting things again for me, just like it's just where I know I'm in the right place. If this is my mindset, I'm in the right place. I'm doing the right thing, but there's balance there, and that's one thing that I'm feeling at work is that there's no more pressure. Like it's okay to have balance. Like right now, all of us are, because of COVID, none of us took vacations this year, and so all of us are hitting the wall of what we can roll over for next year.
Oh, yeah.
And so everyone's taking time off, and there's like nobody saying anything about it.
Yeah.
Everyone's just take
Yeah.
whatever time off you want, and,
Yeah.
and it's great. It's just so nice to not have someone feeling like someone's looking over our shoulder, and there's a huge amount of growth for, I've brought up our facilities manager many times on this show, and it is so great to just feel good and feel like we're part of a team, which I've never been able to say.
Yeah.
It's always been, he's been kind of an outlier, and it's kind of going away, and it's really nice when I spend more of my time with that group of people than anybody else.
Yeah, I bet.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and then my big issue right now is a month from now we're supposed to go to Jamaica,
Yeah.
and it's like, I don't want to cancel this trip.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't. I want to go. And it was like guilt telling me that I shouldn't go.
Right.
Right. But then I see the photos on the groups I'm in of of the people that are there, and the place is freaking empty.
Yeah.
And their staff, they're working there. They want to be of service. And, the owner of the company sends out letters and everything. And I'm just like, okay, you know what? Let's look at the logic of this. And so I talk to people that I know that travel on planes, and they're like, it's no big deal. There's nobody flying.
Yeah.
Like you can actually be like the idea being is that you will have no more exposure getting on a plane and going to where you need to go than you probably do in your day-to-day life.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And so I just said, because Sharon and I are both like, we've got thousands and thousands of dollars in this. Of course we get credits and all that stuff, but it's like, it's not so much that I want to go. It's just, it's a commitment.
Mm-hmm.
And in the middle of winter, it's nice to have a vacation.
Yeah.
And, it's a strange feeling to when I see what's going on with other people in their world and I look at what's going on with me in my world is okay with this.
Yeah.
Other places might not be, but this, when I look at what I do most of the time during the week, it's, there's, no, it's a weird thing, but barring a travel ban of some sort, we're going in January.
Yeah.
Wow.
And because I have travel insurance at least on the resort part of it, so I could literally the day of say it's not happening, but
Yeah.
yeah. So because I really was, I needed to talk to someone that flies a lot, and when I did, it was like, okay, I'm not that worried about it now.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen a decent amount of people post online of, pictures inside of planes, and they're like, nowhere near even half full, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And I know some of the airlines have taken to where, like, through their app, you can see the capacity of the flight. Like, and if it's, I think Jen talked about that, didn't you? Like, where they would tell you how many, like, percentage of people on the flight or something like that.
They had a rule that if it was over 60% full, that you could get rescheduled onto another plane if you
Yeah.
requested it.
Uh-huh.
At another, another date time type of a situation.
Yeah.
But that was if it was 60% or more
Okay.
full.
Yeah, and we just don't, I'm in Idaho, so we don't have, they're just not putting in the restrictions. They should. We literally had the most, we were number one per capita yesterday in the state, our
Wow.
state was, and
Yeah.
yet we're still at whatever it is, stage 2, and that it's literally, there are no restrictions at stage 2. Like
Jeez,
it's
wow.
all, it's recommendations. So I'm like, I'm just going to follow the law, and otherwise it's I have to look at it as like what like I don't go, or I'm not around people,
Yeah.
and I won't be on this trip.
Yeah, that's
not,
true.
Not any more than I do anywhere else.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're
Yeah.
not going to Jamaica to be like, oh, I have to go to like parties.
I'm not going to bars. I'm not
Yeah,
doing any of that.
exactly.
I'm staying in my hotel room and I'm sitting on the beach.
Yeah.
And the restaurants are outdoors. They're open air. Yeah, it's strange, because one of the things with my friend Neil, who's got me to go to these places, is he feels terrible because it's business for them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That the people that work there aren't they want customers there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Well, and given the financial situation of that area and stuff, it's, literally the livelihood of these people, not just a little bit, but it's like that's the main industry there.
yeah, and so they're going out of their way to make sure things are safe.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah.
So
Mhm.
Yeah.
so there's requirements to get tested and stuff
Sure.
before you go, but we're just going to do
Feel
what
like
we have
that's-
to do. And
I feel like that's a responsible thing to do anyway. If you're going to be traveling,
Yeah.
is to get yourself tested first, just to,
Mhm.
just to try to make sure you're not taking something somewhere,
yeah, you can, and that's again, it's like you cannot get an authorization to get into the country until you've uploaded this certain type of test and blah blah blah, and all that stuff. And so it's like, all right, follow all the rules and go. And
Yep.
I just won't be posting very many pictures, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I know, it's like, this sucks.
Yeah. It is an interesting thing. Because I had a conversation with somebody about that went on a vacation, and he was talking about the same thing. He's like, I didn't post any pictures because I didn't want to get all the guff from everybody for going on vacation during a pandemic and all this. And he's like, but the place I went to, there was literally like, they went to some like cabin kind of thing, it was like just him and his family. And he's like, we literally saw like 2 people the whole week we were gone, kind of a thing. And he's like, but it was beautiful, but I didn't want anyone to, why are you traveling? Why are you this? Why, and I was like, yeah. I was like, I get it. I was like, but that's the trade-off this year is that if you're going to take those vacations and stuff, it's, I guess you got to keep it to yourself because, it's harder to, it helps you avoid that guff as well as, he also said he didn't want to post stuff because he didn't want to feel like he was rubbing it in the faces of people who, were missing out on other stuff,
Yeah.
So. And I get it, I get all sides of this. It's just obviously it's something we've never really dealt with before, as a people. Well, most of us, there's maybe the tiniest percentage that were alive during the Spanish flu,
I don't think so.
Yeah. No, there's a couple people that are.
Oh, there was, there's like a couple there's like a woman that's like 109 or something.
Yep. I mean, like, my grandma's 103, so she's close, but not close enough. But yeah, she would have been tiny anyway, but it was, still that. Yeah, so I get it. We're all trying to navigate the best we can do. And it is tough, like you said, is like you look at, your risks and your exposure risk and all that kind of stuff. And
it would be different if I was in an area that had really, really active community spread, like legit crazy out of control, but I'm not. I'm just, and again, we have had we are under mask mandates. We are under social distancing mandates. It's like, I literally, my level of interaction with other human beings all the way there, while we're there and back, will be no different than I'm already in right now.
Yeah.
It just won't be any different. And it's like, all right, let's just do this.
Yeah. I think the thing that would bug me the most would be like if you saw that your flight was completely booked, or that everybody, like the airports were still crammed with people. Those things would make me very uncomfortable,
And that's the whole thing is like, this is the middle of January. It's not around a major holiday. It's, we're flying on weekdays and everything that I've heard from other people who are traveling regularly, there's like, get an N95, put a face shield on, sit in your seats. There's no middle seats. They're skipping rows, and and then the airport in Jamaica is already pretty much empty anyway, and now it's like super empty.
Right.
There's just aren't that many flights going in, so
that makes sense.
But other than that, been like super into doing the Christmas thing this year, and I'm really excited that everyone else is too, just because it's something fun and I'm on top of it, and it's great and loving that. But one thing happened, and this is going to be our topic for tonight, is a mutual friend of mine and Sharon's, and Sharon has become a lot closer with her than I've been recently. Like we used to talk, but I don't as much. And she's basically one of Sharon's closest friends. And they were chatting, and it was one of those. Sharon said to me, I wonder if she's not, like kind of like I'm on the outs. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? And she's like, well, I got a hold of her for this and that, and we had an exchange, and then I haven't heard from her since. And then she started talking about how, mentioning some of their conversations, that she's been kind of down. She's one of those people that's had that got COVID 6 months ago and is still dealing with major health issues, and and then also just, it sounds like seasonal, affective disorder might be kicking in or whatever it was. And I just said, just text her. I'll just send her a text. Don't read anything into it.
Mm-hmm.
Just check in. Don't expect an answer. Don't read into it. And, and then I heard nothing. And then Sharon brought it up again with me today. She's like, yeah, I'm thinking about, just, kind of dropping it. And I said, don't. I'm like, don't. and again, I related, the just keep calling. It is the three of the most powerful words in the story that about, you, Brian, and Tony wanting to write you off, and Jeannie saying, no, you keep calling.
Yeah.
And I am so grateful for that, for you teaching me that lesson. The alternative is horrible. Nobody wants to be on the side of where you didn't call and then something bad happened.
Yeah, exactly.
And and one thing that I heard a couple weeks ago was someone said, nobody fakes depression, or or nobody fakes isolation. And it kind of made me laugh, this idea of fake depression or fake isolation, because people hide out all the time, but they're not, people don't go on with their lives feeling normal, but then put on a facade of wanting to isolate or feeling depressed. It's the other way around.
Yeah.
The people that are depressed or that really want to isolate act like they don't, like everything's fine.
Right.
And
usually we don't talk about it. Like, that's the norm.
Yeah.
Is usually, and I'm with you. It's like, I hate to even call someone like faking depression, because I never want to minimize if someone is dealing with something, but I know what you're saying is it's like there are, if somebody, it's similar to a lot of stuff in life, like a lot of times the more someone, the old quote, basically you're saying, by being so vocal, you're basically admitting that you're not telling the truth, kind of a thing is what's going on. It's like you're doing it to try to get attention. And it's weird because both parts of you, like both sides of this, want attention. Like if you're depressed, you really do want the attention, but you don't want to be a burden. You don't want to ask for it. You don't want to, whatever. And then of course your brain, because of distorted thinking, is also telling you that people don't care. They don't want to know. They don't, that you're not worth whatever their time or anything, So it's a really tough situation because, like I said, people used to ask me all the time, and like you said, I'm fine, whatever.
Yeah.
And I would never really get into it. And I've also been around plenty of people who are constantly just talking about it. And I don't mean like the way I do now, but in you can just tell it's like, I don't know, it just sounds like you're just saying the things, but you're not showing the signs, and again, it does manifest differently and all that kind of stuff, but it is tough sometimes to tell which is going on. But like I said, usually the people who want to isolate, they just isolate.
They just isolate. Exactly.
Yeah.
They don't, and then if they are isolating and you call them on it, they fake being fine. And that's the real deal. Most people fake being fine.
Yeah.
And because of seasonal affective disorder, sad, that is very important right now to, that it affects people, that I just think it's so important to just keep reaching out. And, I hope everything ends up working out in this situation and it's no big deal. And, I hope Sharon just keeps sending a text message every once in a while, just saying, hey, hope you're doing well and don't expect anything in return.
Yeah.
Because maybe that's enough for that person who's really feeling down to just feel like, okay, there's somebody still thinking about me because, while we were driving to California and back, we listened to Rob Halford of Judas Priest's book, Confess.
Mm-hmm.
And he, addiction, drugs, alcohol, also coming out as gay. Well, I should rephrase it, never coming out. I mean, basically decades of not because he didn't want to hurt the band.
Yeah.
And then having periods of when you get nobody cares about me, and that was the thing he kept talking about. Is okay, nobody cares, and when he did made an attempt on his life, it was like nobody cares, pill, bottle.
Right.
nobody cares, pill, bottle, that kind of a thing. And back then when this happened to him, it's weird. He talks about writing letters to people, like love interests and this kind of stuff. And we don't have to do that right now. We literally have it right there at our fingertips.
Yeah.
And everybody, no matter what, even if they're not connecting with the outside world, if they have a phone, they're getting their text messages. Even if they're looking at it, at least it's, reminding that person like, hey, I'm here and I'm thinking about you.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many times I've been having a really a really rough depression day. Like I'll just be in bed all day and I'll look at something where somebody messages me or texts me or whatever, and it's those things are lights in the dark, and sometimes, like you said, sometimes it's just enough to know, hey, there's still some light, and it is really hard with what your brain does to you. Just like you were saying with Rob Halford, just nobody cares. And we all know better. We all do. We all know there's someone in our life. Maybe there's some cases, but for the most part, we have people who actually care about us. Maybe they don't show it all the time, maybe whatever it is, maybe our brain just doesn't see it, get it, whatever. But we generally all have someone who cares about us, but it's so hard to see when you're in that tunnel. It's just so dark that all you can see is what your brain is telling you, and it's just lying to you. And it's just going to keep lying to you and everything. So it's, like you said, it's so nice to get those things. And it does stink that unfortunately people on the outside have, that there's no, I don't know what the word for it is. Many times there's no payoff for the work that they put in. They're constantly, like you said, if Sharon, if she or Tony or Jeannie or Jen, you guys, Heno, whoever it is that's checked in on me, there's times where I don't respond to people. And same with this, it's like, there's no payoff on that. And it's understandable to why at a certain point you'd be like, well, they're not going to bother, and it's...
Yeah, why do I bother? Yeah.
Yeah, but it's so hard to understand that there's times where you just can't. And it seems so ridiculous because how hard is it to send a text, right? It's the easiest thing. Literally. You can just use the assistant on your phone and say, hey, whatever it is, text so-and-so. You don't even have to type the thing. But it just seems like so much. Some of us, the thought of getting out of bed is more than you can handle, So it's such a weird thing to go through. And I feel so bad for people on both sides of it, because when we did that episode, which is episode 47 of Salty Language, which I'll have in the show notes, by the way, if anyone wants to go listen, I didn't know what the other side goes through. I had never stopped and thought about it because my brain wasn't going to let me, because again, my brain's going, nobody cares. To understand the other side of it would be to understand that somebody not only cares, but cares a lot, so it's a very, very weird place to be in when you can kind of start pushing away some of that fog and you start seeing some of those truths. So definitely on both sides of this, please keep calling, keep texting, whatever it is. And you nailed it, Heno. The best way is a, hey, just thinking about you, or, whatever it is, just let somebody know, basically that you're there for them without expectation.
Yeah. And there's no hey, let's get together soon, all that. Not even necessary.
Yeah.
Just to check in. I also remember, when I first listened to that podcast, when, you and Tony talked about it, was how much there was, so much had been unsaid.
Yeah.
And this is the other thing I think that's important about this idea of just keep calling. It also is an acknowledgement of, of saying, hey, you don't have to say, if you need to talk, let's talk. No, sometimes just saying, thinking about you, I hope you're doing well. Leave it at that.
Yeah.
And then when the next conversation happens, maybe that door gets opened. And the one thing also that was in part of Rob Halford's book was he talked about he still had the voice inside of his head, the voice of reason. And even after he downed the bottle of pills and the bottle of booze, the voice in his head said, "What are you doing?" And I think that's part of if somebody gets those text messages like, "Hey, I'm thinking about you," maybe up in the front of their mind, they're still thinking, "Nobody's listening to me. Nobody's there. Nobody cares." But maybe for me, there was a voice inside my head that knew when enough was enough.
Yeah.
And I had to quit. And I think that voice that message can come through. So, for me, it was I still had a connection to this world. I still had a connection to people. And I think that's important, that it's harder to do to go down to that deepest, darkest hole. I mean, I know there's so many cases where it's like, why did they do this? They had every reason to live and blah, blah, blah. But it just crushes me to think that nobody gave him a chance.
That is one of those situations where you're comparing insides to outsides.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you look and go, oh, they got this, they got that, and in your mind you're going, that's everything you could ever want. But clearly it wasn't. Might be everything you want, but it might not be everything they want or need. And that's why it's so tough, is so many people, when someone does take their own life, and, so many people, if they had just reached out, I was here, and it's like, but I'm not laying a guilt trip on anybody, but it's like, did they know that? And I don't necessarily mean you didn't do everything you could do, but maybe their brain just kept telling them, nobody cares, no one cares, no one cares, But like you were saying, and this is the key thing here, I think, is if people don't reach out, basically what happens is the two sides of your brain that fight are the one that says no one cares, and then that rational side of your brain needs firepower.
Yes, that's a great way of phrasing it.
You're loading it up by messaging people and saying, hey, I'm here, or just thinking of you, checking in, whatever it needs to be. Because if their rational brain can still fight in that fight, that gives them the, no, you're lying, I know someone cares about me situation kind of a thing. So you never know. Like I said, it's unfortunate that it is such a thankless thing many, many, many times. But it's so important to reach out to people and talk to them. And not just because of a risk of suicide or depression or whatever else. Life is just tough for everybody right now, There's a lot of stress on people right now. And, just having an outlet for this, a lot of people don't get to go to work and vent like they used to. Kids don't get to go to school and vent to their friends like they used to. We all don't get to go hang out on Friday and Saturday nights at the bar and vent like we used to, So there's a lot of stuff with people that's being pent up and buried. And, as guys especially, but, we know no bueno. No, but just as people in general, it's really bad for us to do that. So just finding those connections and keeping those connections alive right now is so, so, so important. And, and again, in this, we're hitting that time of year where a lot of people are going to really feel differently, because this year you can't go spend the holidays with 20 of your family or whatever, like you used to be able to. A lot of people aren't getting all those kind of things. So it's another comfort taken away at the moment. So we have to try our best as people to find ways of helping each other.
Now don't get me wrong. If you understand, as I say every week, if you know you need help or you need to vent or whatever it is, please reach out to people also, whether it's your friends, therapists, doctors, whatever it is, whoever you need to call. There's helplines. Those are in our show notes. I saw Michigan just announced a couple days ago that I think around March or April, I think, they're going to launch a mental health crisis type thing, like a number,
Wow.
which is awesome. I know there's going to be a nationwide one next year also, but I was just happy to see the states do it too, because just, all hands on deck with this stuff. Suicides are too high, have been for a long time. This is a rough year. I can there's been a lot of people that have taken their lives this year, no different than any other year, but it's, like I said, please reach out no matter which side.
This year right now.
Yeah, it feels like it.
Is.
I haven't seen the numbers, but yeah, it feels like it anyway. Yeah.
They're up, and there's a lot more. There's a lot more alcoholism and addiction that is hitting people. It is more intense. And like you made a great point. It's like a lot of people look forward to their Christmas travels or whatever, and it's something that they can't look forward to.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we can't control what other people do. If somebody wants to respond, if they wanted to, we can't control whether somebody seeks the help that they need. It's unfortunate that there are limitations to, how much we can get into somebody else's life.
Yeah.
But you can do a little bit, and maybe it'll be enough. And I'll tell you, it's like, it's better than the alternative.
Yeah.
At least you reached out. At least you did something. And I know we talk a lot about, about if you need help, look at these numbers. It's like, if you know somebody that you might be worried about, it's not a big deal. You don't have to, it's not like you have to have an intervention.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just a matter of just a little message, something, just to let them know that they're being thought of.
Yeah. Like I said, over the years, I've known people, I've heard stories and read stories of people that literally have said that just somebody messaging them let them know that somebody cared, and that was enough. Like there's been where like the day they were going to kill themselves, they got something from somebody, and it stopped them, at least for that day. Maybe down the road they might still try, but at least that day they, it was enough. So, you literally don't know what hey, just checking in text, it literally could save a life. So
especially when I relate to how deep I was in my alcoholism and where I couldn't see, the true from the false.
Yeah.
And how convinced I was that there was nothing wrong. And if I reflect on how deep into distortion my life was, and yet somewhere in there was a little spring of hope and of knowing what the right thing was and knowing what I needed to do, and that it was in there, and that out of all of that just mud and murk and just distorted thinking, there was a moment of clarity. And if I could find that moment of clarity, somebody else can too.
Yeah.
I absolutely believe it, and I hope for it.
Mm-hmm. Me too. That's why I said the key in there is being able to have some ammunition to fight back with, against that distortion. And I think, unfortunately, when the scale gets tipped too far one way, it's too hard to, I think that's when people a lot of times succumb to those thoughts. But not just like in all this isn't just about like suicide or whatever. This is just you never know when these kind of texts might be enough to kind of perk someone enough to even get them out of bed for the day.
That's it.
And
get something to eat.
Yeah. And people don't understand, how life-changing that is, to where if not having enough energy to practice self-care, to having enough energy to at least, hey, I got out of bed, I got something to eat, I took my medicine. This is a huge win day.
You know,
Oh,
there's
wow,
a
that's
there's a lot of
that's a-
people that don't know
Yep.
how big of a win that can be sometimes.
Yep, to just get up and take your medicine.
Yeah.
That's
Literally, the
that
best
could
way I
be
can
the
put
difference.
it through to everybody is like when you have like a bad flu and you're just empty. You're just flat on your face in bed basically because you have nothing to give. And then that first day when you can finally get out of bed, you know, how good it feels to finally get a shower to, you know, whatever it is. It's like now picture some people go through that 5 times a week or even 2 times a week, 3 times, you know, whatever it ends up being. It's really exhausting and hard. So any like I said, you know, any glimmer of hope, any glimmer of light you can give somebody, it's just worth it. And I know it's tough because, like I said, it's thankless many times, and there's no, I don't want to say reward, but like I said, there's no payoff in that you don't necessarily get it reciprocated. You know, they don't necessarily want to have a long conversation, or they don't, you know, even text you back. But you know, sometimes, you know, and I understand, you know, we've all got to measure our commitments and decide who's, you know, who we're going to do this for and stuff. But just whenever you can, please reach out to people.
Absolutely. It's so hard, you know. It's hard on both parties. And when you love someone when you love someone who has mental health issues or struggles, and you're constantly having to show up and you're constantly always going after and making sure that they're okay, and it's draining and it's hard, but it's so worth it, and it just makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
You have to be there, and you just have to keep doing it. If you value that person in your life, then it's a part of the package deal that you go through.
Yeah.
I was telling you about this last week, Jen, about my friend who's going to be taking care of his father who has short-term memory loss, and when it was described to me about how his father's told what he needs to do, then he forgets to do it, and he's forgotten that he's forgotten, and so literally he's living in the moment all the time. There's no saying, well, I just told you that, because he literally doesn't know that he just was told that.
Yeah.
And the fact that he then in that moment he goes, oh wow, I forgot something. Well, he doesn't even know that he forgot something, because it's literally like it's every moment. And the reality hit me real quick that you know what my friend has to do is be there every minute in the moment, and there's never any chiding. It is the ultimate act of humility and compassion and acceptance and patience.
Yeah.
And the more I thought about that, the more I realized is like, okay, in this case, it's super easy to see it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You literally, this person is a physiological block to understanding their own condition and how heavy it is, right?
Yeah.
And how, you know, potentially devastating it is. And so many people in our lives, they struggle in other ways, and we can't find that same humility, that same compassion, that same patience, because we feel like, oh, they have a choice.
Yeah.
Well, and the reality is, and I know this is a high bar, but we should approach everyone like that.
Yeah.
Everyone should be able to, you know, to have that from me. And there's a reading that I've shared on here before, and I think I'll have to do it again as a podcast, where it's a reading in a daily meditation, and it sets a really high bar. It basically says, it is my prerogative and my responsibility that no matter what happens in my life, I don't act negatively. And that is really setting a high bar. But the freedom I get from that, and the good feeling I get from that no matter what happens in my life, I have control over how I'm going to react. that I choose to not act negatively. I choose to have, to be positive. I choose to approach people with acceptance and compassion and humility. These are like some real high bars. But, when I have those moments, it feels really good.
Yeah.
And the same thing goes with that friend that, like you said, Jen, we all have that person in our lives that has leaned on our shoulders more than anybody else. And guess what? Brush off your shoulder and give it to them again.
Yeah.
Yep. If they bring value to your life and it's someone that you value having in your life, you go the extra distance. You just do. And there are times when you have to walk away because it's just too much for you. And that's okay too. Walking away is always an option. And it is understandably an option for many people because you just can't. And that's okay. But if you want the person in your life and it's important to you, you step up and you keep offering the shoulder, you keep offering your assistance and your help, and you keep calling and you keep calling and you keep calling. Yep. Trust me, I know. I've fought and fought and fought in tears and stressed and just to the absolute max trying to understand someone before with mental health issues. And I have my share of my own. And it's hard. It's so hard. I get it. But it just comes down to what you value and what you want in your life. If you want them, that's the package deal.
Yeah.
Comes together.
Yeah.
All ties in a bow.
One last thing I want to say on this is from the side of the person with depression is if someone reaches out to you over and over and whatnot, make sure whenever you can, to tell them that you appreciate them reaching out to you, that it means a lot to you. Don't hold back what it has meant to you. Tell them, hey, I was in a dark place. That really helped me, whatever it is. Because, again, even if a person is doing something with no expectation of reward, getting that payoff helps because they know that the work that they are doing is working, that it's reaching you, that it's helping. And that'll make, them, first of all, more likely to continue, but also, you let them know that they're a valued person to you as well. Because you never know. What if they're dealing with some of those same doubts in their head? Maybe they're not as bad as yours, or they're not as vocal about it or whatever. Maybe they don't feel people really appreciate them or love them or whatever. So, like I said, the work in this definitely can go both ways. So, whichever side you're on, or if you're on both sides of it, as many of us are, just please make sure you, just in general, just no matter who you are, just let people know you appreciate them. Let them know that you care about them. It's just a good practice to begin with. As Jen's talked about with the, amount of loss that's been around us this year and stuff, it's been a great year to really look inside and look at, to make sure people know that you appreciate them and cherish them and everything, because as we've seen via whatever it is, whether it's COVID, it's cancer, it's just sudden something else, there's no guarantee anyone's going to be around tomorrow. So don't waste your time, or don't waste time, on letting them know you care.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, guys, it's about that time. We good?
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, actually, I have one real quick thing before we wrap up here, which was I saw in the news this week, and I always talk about how the weather affects me, and everything, and of course we know about like seasonal affective disorder and whatnot. So there was a thing from Move.org that was published this year that is the gloomiest cities in the U.S. Okay. And where I live is literally 2 minutes from Toledo, Ohio. Okay. Toledo ranked 10th on the list because 51% of our days are overcast.
Oh man.
Wow.
Yeah, I think they said roughly it was at 195 or something like that days a year. Let me see if I can find it again. 185 days a year we have cloudy days, basically.
Huh.
Yeah, and 3 of the top 10 cities are in Ohio. Cleveland, Columbus, and Toledo were in the top 10. So, yeah. So, just letting anyone know, if you live kind of in this area, there's a good reason for it. And it's, if you have seasonal affective disorder and you live in this area, there's a good reason why it seems to affect us way worse up here.
So just for perspective, where's Seattle and Portland?
Seattle is not in the top, Seattle's 6th with 201 cloudy days.
Okay, because that's everyone's got that idea that
Yes.
Seattle is constantly rainy and in clouds. Okay,
Portland is number 2 with 222 days, and number 1 for anyone who's curious is Anchorage, Alaska. They have 239. So that means 65% of the year they have cloudy days. And I'll have a link to the thing from this where they explain a little more how they determined it and everything.
that's great.
Yeah. So yeah. That was just for curiosity's sake. Well, that's weird. In this list that I'm looking at here, it shows Toledo as 11th. That's weird. Anyway, but Detroit is just below Toledo, and where I'm at is almost Toledo, but I'm just south of Detroit. So we're right in between. And
Ground zero.
Yeah. Well, and big surprise, Detroit is 185 days a year too, because we not quite have the same weather, but it's fairly close.
Yeah.
It's far enough away that there can be a big difference, like in precipitation and stuff, from us to Detroit. But yeah, I just thought it was kind of funny because for years, this is one of those things where I've kind of just known this anyway, because I've talked about it on the podcasts before. About it's like, God, it's like from this point of the year on, I feel like it's just overcast.
Because it is.
Yeah, it turns out I wasn't too far off. Yeah, all right.
And that's why my mother left Detroit and moved to California.
Yeah, absolutely understand it. Yeah.
And my mother is going to absolutely struggle this winter because she moved to Florida up here.
Yeah, she's leaving all that sunshine. Yep.
Invest in a sun lamp, which I think is a good idea.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I should invest in one.
I should as well.
Yeah.
Well, with that, folks, it's that time. If you'd like to continue the conversation with us, and you do, we've talked about a lot tonight. So, you know what to do. You know how to reach us. You can reach us at thecrazylifepodcast.weebly.com is our website. thecrazylifepodcast@outlook.com is our email address. If you'd like to talk to me direct, you can reach me via the Twitters at Jen's Crazy Life. That's Jen with a G. And if you'd like to hear more from me, you can also hear me on the Crazy... Wait a minute. I'm on the Crazy Life. Hear me on Shake the Sheets. It's a pop culture talk podcast that I do with my co-host, Nate. And, Heno, how can they reach you?
You can find me on Twitter at Ida Heno, and you can find me on Facebook, Heno Heiter, and on Facebook Messenger. It's an easy way to get a hold of me. And you can listen to my other podcast, Moving the Needle. We were going to do a Christmas one, get that one out this week, but we had some things come up that we're going to have to do it next week. But we will be ridiculing each other for, well, probably actually congratulating each other for our most hated Christmas songs.
Nice.
That should be a fun listen.
Yeah.
Christmas Shoes needs to be up there. That song. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Christmas Shoes.
No.
It's a country song that's a fairly recent release, I believe.
Oh, okay.
But it's basically
I feel
geared to make you bawl.
I feel like you mentioned this. I feel like like this time last year or something like that, you mentioned this because we were talking about bad Christmas songs or something like that. So If I
Oh,
know
no,
of the song,
Dear
it's
Mr. Santa.
what was that?
Dear Mr. Santa. That's another one that can go to hell. Sorry.
Heck. H-E double toothpicks.
Yeah.
That one's an awful song.
Yeah, I'll tell you, all you need to hate Christmas music is to work 1 year in retail through Christmas. That's it. That killed it for me. I can't stand most of the Christmas songs anymore, and there's a couple that I don't like to hear necessarily because of, their punches in the gut. But yeah,
Yeah.
but oh man, I feel bad for all the retail workers right now having to deal with the loop of. The worst is when it's the Muzak Christmas music, because it's not even the good versions of the songs; it's bad versions of it. You're like, So, yeah, if you're out there in the retail struggle, my heart's with you. That's tough. All right.
Well, how can they reach you, Brian?
You can find me on Twitter at Stunami, or you can find me at my other podcast at salty_language, or at saltylanguage.com. That show is not safe for work, so please be careful where you're listening to it and who's around and all that and whatever. It's where we talk about just whatever, pop culture or whatever kind of comes into our brains, and we make up a bunch of silly stuff and whatever. So it's just me and my best friend just being idiots. So if you're into that,
So if you're into...
and sometimes,
wow,
and sometimes
you're really promoting the heck
I know
out of
I'm
it.
good at it. I know, and sometimes Heno joins us for superior board work, or competent board work, I should say.
Confident, yeah,
Yeah.
merely confident.
Yeah. So, what was I going to say here? I forgot. Oh, you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/group/crazylifepodcast. You can find this show on Twitter at The Crazy Life Pod, where I post when new episodes go up. You can find us, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, we're part of the Tangent Bound Network, which can be found at tangentboundnetwork.com. And you can find us on pretty much anywhere you find other podcasts, which you already know because you're listening, but to tell your friends, whatever. Please rate, review, and subscribe if you haven't already. We'd appreciate it. And, I'm going to skip the part where I tell people to reach out because we kind of already covered that. And, but if you do need help, please do look for help. As I mentioned earlier, talk to your doctor, friends, text line, crisis line, whatever you need. Just, please know you're not alone, and, there are people willing to help out there. And then, I guess as I've been saying, and this kind of fits right in with everything, is, please show kindness whenever you can. Just like we said, people are going through a whole lot right now. So, says the guy who yelled at the woman taking a selfie. But anyway, but please try to help people out when you can. Be nice. Just whatever. It's just a good move anyway, and it'll make you feel a whole lot better anyway than being, like Heno said, about the positivity versus the negativity. Just try to put positive vibes out there, and that's just try to be nice to one another.
All right, with that, go out there and have the best week you possibly can. And remember, spread the love, not the COVID. And wiggle those toes.